Ibra di testa, Tonali, gol! Sandro! Meritato! Sandro! Gol!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Talgrud.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. After a week absence, it was the holidays, Thanksgiving, so had family here. House is still in disarray. There's stuff you can't see down there, but there's a lot of things going on in my home. So apologies for that if I move and you see junk in the background. That's just the way it is right now.
Yeah, and we've not got Madison this week. And to be honest, it's mostly my fault. We were meant to record yesterday on Monday. We're actually recording on Tuesday. I wasn't feeling too great yesterday. I think combination of the seasonal sniffles and consuming a fair amount of beers to celebrate England's passage into the quarterfinals of the World Cup. I won't dwell on it because, one of our teams is there and the other one isn't. But what I will say is the USA-Netherlands game was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. It was two teams who looked like they actually wanted to have a go at each other. And that's not often what you see in knockout football. I can't imagine you're gutted about losing to a team that is probably a little bit better on paper.
Yeah, I even tweeted pre-game because I tweeted a lot of shit pro-USA, obviously, during group stages, so I knew I'd catch flack as soon as we lost. So I was preemptive and just said, I think we lose to Netherlands, which was true. In fact, I said 3-1. With that said, in hindsight, I do think 3-1 is actually kind of harsh against the U.S. because if you look at the stats, I think we had the same amount of shots as them. USA had more shots on target, more corners. The difference was more of theirs went in than ours, and that's just the way it is. In fact, the only one of ours that went in, you could argue, was pretty lucky. I still am confused by it. It was a great cross, and it hit the trailing leg of one of our players and just lobbed in a perfect little loop.
Very strange goal.
It was super strange, but take what you can get. And if we scored in the second minute with that Pulisic chance, he had a one-on-one early. Maybe it's a different game. Maybe we're talking about both being in the quarterfinals. But it is what it is. I'm happy with the boys. I think the sport in the country has grown so much, at least in my lifetime, that my kids and my grandkids in the future, and they might see more. Will we win a World Cup in my lifetime? Probably not, and that's okay. But I do think we're on the right trajectory. And as far as nations who haven't won the World Cup, who are most likely to win it next, probably Netherlands. But we got to be somewhere in the top 10 of that list. I think every year the sport's growing so much in the country, the way we invest in it. And I was telling you before we started recording, but I'll tell everyone who's listening, soccer is now the number 4 sport in America. It's American football, basketball, baseball, and then soccer just a few percentage points behind baseball. It's probably going to pass in the next year. Maybe even after with this World Cup, definitely after the 2026 World Cup, it will. And then it's now above hockey and the other one that I can't remember
baseball.
Because baseball's third.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's close.
Hockey is the 5th. That's what it is. Because soccer 4th. Yeah. So yeah, we're growing. We're getting there, and this was the youngest squad in the World Cup this year. So you figure in 4 years, when we're playing on home soil, and all of our players are in their prime, except for a few players who I thought were pretty bad. They were the old guys anyways. We had a 35-year-old center back, and he played like a 35-year-old center back.
Is that Tim Ream?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a championship level centre back. And someone will come through there to replace him, no doubt.
Absolutely.
But players playing at top clubs as well. You've got right back who's at Milan on loan from Barcelona, Juve midfielder, McKennie, obviously Pulisic at Chelsea. There's some pedigree there.
Yeah.
Anthony Robinson looks a good player as well.
He did, and I thought he actually had a really bad game, and that's probably why we lost. Because you look at Dumfries, his entire group stage, he was averaging a FOTMOB rating of 5.8, and then of course 2 assists and goal gets a 9.1. And it's okay. But yeah, I think there's, like I said, the Tim Ream was, and I don't mean to slate the guy because he did a good job in the group stage. We obviously conceded only 1 goal, and I think he gave away the penalty for that actually. So maybe I am slating him, but I don't know. It's a mixture of modern day football and a few relics of the past that are still playing kind of older ball, and those don't mix together very well. So we're getting there. Saw rumors today we might be joining the Copa America with Canada, which would be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, look, winning the Gold Cup every time it comes around is awesome. I love seeing the trophy and the hype, but let's be real. It's a 3-team competition, and that's only recent. You know, it was USA Mexico every year for a while. So join Copa America, play against Messi's, the Neymars, you know, the Luis Suarez's, who's obviously probably going to be retired soon, but yeah, you know, I'm optimistic.
That would be a positive step. That seems to make an awful lot of sense, to be honest. It's just a better yardstick, and I think it probably do wonders for the development of some young players who get a little bit sheltered by playing Gold Cup and some quite easy qualifiers. You know, it's not the strongest confederation necessarily, but no, a lot of positives for you, without a doubt. I said before the tournament I thought Wales would come second. I'm more than happy to be proven wrong on that. They ended up being the big disappointments of our group, but the USA did their job, needed to win that final game and did it. And then, you know, it could have not been the Netherlands. That was still touch and go going into their last game, but obviously they did end up winning their group, and that set that up. And I think most neutrals would have had Netherlands winning that game, so it's no great disgrace to go out to them.
Yeah.
And now we'll see how far Netherlands actually go on and do. I mean, you know, England have had a bit of a sheltered run in comparison to that. We were probably expected to win our group, and we managed to do it after a disappointing draw against you guys, where I thought you were pretty good all over the pitch. And then Senegal is not the most difficult game, especially when they don't have Sadio Mane, but took care of business. And now here come France. So that will be fun. Bring that on Saturday. See that as 50-50, to be honest. I know a lot of people will have France as being slight favourites, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. They've got the deep tournament experience, but I think we've been pretty good as well, and it's just whoever shows up and takes their chances, whoever controls the speed better. We'll see. So I'll either be crying on next Monday's episode, or I'll be talking about how we're going all the way. So yeah. Well, what we thought we'd do in the absence, of course, of any games to talk about and any real concrete news related to the club at the moment. I mean, it is worth mentioning that the team did go back into training a couple of days ago at Milanello, and they will leave for Dubai on the 10th of December for a 10-day warm weather training camp in the UAE, where we'll play Arsenal and Liverpool in friendlies on the 13th and 16th, I believe it is. So we will Tuesday. At least...
it's 4 teams, actually. But I forget the other. PSV? Is that one?
PSV we play on the 30th. It's not part of the same tournament.
Oh, it's not. Okay. I thought
and
it
then
was.
Leon and Spurs are the other teams that are there, but we don't play them. We just play Arsenal and Liverpool. It's not really a tournament because I don't think they crown a winner. They're just calling it that because there's however many teams there.
Yeah, but we play another friendly against what appears to be a second or third division team. I don't know where. I never heard of them.
I think they are.
Oh, even okay. Well,
yeah. That we have on. I want to say it's the 8th.
I don't know because it didn't show up on. January 8th. You're saying no? We have Roma. We're back to real games then.
Yeah, it'll just be on. I don't think it'll be on any apps or anything like that.
Yeah, it doesn't even show up in the FOTMOM schedule, so that's okay. I think it's all Facebook was what they said. All the games are going to be streamed on.
Yeah, Lumazane on Thursday the 8th, so that'll just be played on the Milanello training pitch. So we can obviously find some conclusions from that in next week's episode, but we have to wait for a couple more until we can talk about the Arsenal and Liverpool friendlies, which will obviously be a better indication of where certain players are at. Not got final dates yet for all the squad being back together, because obviously we've got players still at the World Cup, Teo and Giroud, who are both still impressing with France, which is good to see. But obviously, like Dest has just left the competition. Decatur Lara was bumped out in the group stage with Belgium. So they'll all be coming in at different times. And then we've got like Calabria, Maignan, Salamanca's, who have come back from injury, but they'll probably be eased back in. Kier seemed to pick up a bit of a muscle problem while he was there with Denmark, who also got knocked out in the group stages. So we wait for more news on him. But yeah, it'd be good to go out for some warm weather training. No doubt the players will be buzzing about not having to hang around in the cold European December, So they'll no doubt enjoy that. And until we have things to talk about from that, we've decided to do a bit of a recap of the calendar year of 2022. Obviously, for many reasons, a memorable year for us, it would be fair to say. The Scudetto drought ended. We've more recently secured Champions League knockout stage football once again. So I think it would be fair to say it's the year where the project has started to bear the most fruit since when Elliott management took over. Of course, there was the takeover as well that happened over the summer, transitioning to Redbird. Several players with great numbers, and just generally probably the best year out of the last 11 or 12 supporting a team.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to disagree. It's definitely got to be 2022.
Since probably the last Scudetto season.
And this was
11,
better
12,
because it came to the final day against Inter, and we won it emphatically. So it was, I don't know. I think there was just more because I don't remember when the last Scudetto prior to 2011 was. Do you off the top of your head?
2003-04.
Oh, okay. So it was a relatively similar gap, but I don't think we were struggling in that gap like we struggled between 2011 and now. So
obviously we won about, I think we won 6 or 7 Serie A, 7 Scudetti in the 90s, and then there was that one in 2003-04, and then there was the bit of a gap, and then an even bigger gap this time.
That's right, yeah, because it was all Inter after 06, and then all Juve. Yeah, so that makes sense.
In 2003-04, we won 25 out of 34 games and only lost twice. We won it by 11 points. There we go. So that was a good season. So we decided to do a recap of the entire calendar year. Now, obviously, what you'll probably all be thinking is that it'll be skewed slightly more towards the back end of the 2021-22 season, because that was when the trophy was hoisted, and we've also only really had like the first third of this season. But we tried to do a little bit of a split, to pick out some more recent memories as well. And we've sorted it by category 2. So we'll go with the first one, the best goal of the 2022 calendar year. I'm going to let you go first on these. We may agree on some, and some will get honourable mentions, of course, as well. So, fire away.
Yeah, I think I probably took the easy answer on this one, but to me, it's got to be Teo's coast to coast against Atalanta. There really is no competition, at least from this season, and obviously that one goal of the season last season. So, I mean, that was an easy pick.
Yeah, I have the same one down as well. Do you know what? It did strike me when I was going back through the games and trying to jog my memory on the goals scored. We didn't score many screamers throughout the year. No. Absolute 25-yarders, Locatelli v Juventus type absolute howitzers. There were a couple of really nice strikes in there. Kalulu scored a winner against Empoli when he just stepped up from 25 yards and curled it in the bottom corner. Rebic's against Salernitana that had the keeper just rooted to the spot. Those were great goals in terms of the power and precision of the shots. Then obviously Teo's was just amazing, like running the ball 100 meters, individual run, beating several defenders, and then slotting it in with the composure of a centre forward. That was just, and the moment of it as well was superb.
I mean, that almost, obviously we didn't win the Scudetto until the following week, but we played before Inter, and after seeing that goal, it was just like, in my mind, it was wrapped up. How do you come back from that? And props to Inter because they did very well. I don't remember who they played that week.
Cagliari it was.
And they slaughtered them. They slaughtered them. So, I remember that as well. Honorable mention, at least for me, has just left my mind. I was thinking about it the whole time you were talking. I was like, oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Based on moment, not actual goal, Tonali's last second winner against, I believe it was Lazio.
The
one that Zlatan kind of headed over and he just tapped it in. The video of that with the Rocky music playing. Brought tears to my eyes. I watched it 150 times. Just incredible. And it was just one of those moments that kept the dream alive and kept pushing us forward. So I'm not picking it, but I thought about doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, if I was to be different and just pick an alternative one, I mean, you've got to throw Giroud into the mix. That amazing turn to put De Vrij on his ass and then slot it in, and just because of the magnitude of that goal and what it meant in the title race, and also I'm going to say this was bad defending mostly, but Leao's goal in the derby this year as well, this season, where he rounded two men and then slotted it in to make it 3-1, and the stadium just nearly imploded. Like it was sensational.
Spoiler alert, that is further on my list for a different question.
Okay. Worst moment. Best assist. Now, this is a tough one because you often don't remember the assist necessarily, unless it's something outrageous. But I did rack my brains for this one, and I have come up with an answer, but I can't say that it is 100% the right answer, if you know what I mean, because I feel like I might have forgotten some.
Yeah.
But yeah, off you go.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you just gave this great preamble. Well, same thing. It's probably not everyone's first choice. A lot of people are going to view this as like a consolation prize, and a part of it is because it was immediately the first thing that came to mind, but I had to go back and watch it to make sure it wasn't just a dink little pass, But I went with a goal that came against Bologna early in the season. Leao was the one who scored the goal, and the assist was CDK. He actually did do really well. He outmuscled his man on the halfway point, sprinted to the edge of the box, and just lobbed it over to Leao, who slotted it home like it was, a butter knife or a knife through butter.
A butter knife, yeah,
a butter knife. It actually was a great assist, and obviously he's been in poor form since then. So I am definitely throwing him a bit of a bone, but
pump a bit of air in his tires. It can't do any harm. Of course, he listens every week, as we know. That's a good one. I was in Hamburg for that game, and I was watching it. I was watching the game on my phone at a brewery, and then when I saw CDK put Leao through, the stream on my phone froze, and then it reloaded just in time for the celebrations. So I'm like, I don't know how the finish went, but I'm fairly sure that's an assist for CDK. And yeah, I agree. That was a good one. The one I went for, as I say, I'm not 100% confident that this is the right answer, and please let me know in the comments if there's a striking one that we've missed. But Benitez for Teo's goal against Spezia this season. I mean, Teo made a great run as well, so that's part of the whole optic of this goal. Mm-hmm. But Benitez just onto his left foot, curling ball round the back of the defence, and there was only one place that you could put it where Teo was going to be able to chest it down and finish in such a close space with the keeper where he was, and he dropped it right on there. That to me is also a perfect embodiment of how much Benitez all-round game has improved. Like, he's no longer just the midfield pit bull. He's an actual playmaker as well, and he's
and his importance in the squad, because I remember the build up to that. We were alternating between Tonali and like Pobega, and then Pobega and Benacer. We weren't playing them together. And I remember the week prior he didn't play, and we struggled. We really struggled that game. We pulled it off, but we struggled. And I was in the chat saying, like, Benacer is the most important player in our squad. We can't do anything without him. And then he finally played that next week and did that. And I remember thinking, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we need him. So, yeah, good pick.
Yeah, and the one other one that I wanted to mention was Leao's assist for the second goal in the title-winning game at Sassuolo, the one where he just started running. Sassuolo gave the ball away, which is why I didn't really go for this, but it was because of Leao's pressure. Now, there's a bit of narrative going on at the moment because Portugal's head coach, Fernando Santos, came out and said that he's got a lot of freedom at Milan and he doesn't work hard for his... He basically implied that, he needs to work harder for his national team than he's forced to work for us. And just watching that particular goal back, he runs and runs and he doesn't give up on the ball. He uses his physicality to wrestle possession back, and I can't remember who he gets the ball back off. But then he makes one of those typical darting runs to the byline and serves it on a plate for Giroud. And obviously one goal would have been enough as it turns out, but you could argue that scoring twice in such quick succession was what really sealed the title. So I'll give a mention to Rafa, who has obviously plenty of assists in his repertoire as well. The best win.
Yeah, so this is what we were alluding to earlier about the Inter game. I picked that one, the 3-2 Derby win in September. Leao obviously had the brace. Everything you mentioned about it last time, it's just winning a Derby and in such fashion as that. Like we were up 3-1 at one point, and for me, this one holds a bit more of a special place, not simply because of the result, but because of my environment at the time. It was with Milan Club DC, and it was at a new bar. We were on a rooftop, so it was kind of hard to see the game because the sun was shining on us, but a lot of great people there. It was the first Milan game that my girlfriend had watched, and she'd only seen some MLS games, so she wasn't like too impressed with the quality of the sport. And then she saw that, and obviously we were all exploding and excited the whole time and just over the moon. But on the drive home, she even told me, like, I didn't realize how intense the sport was until I saw two great teams play like today. And I was like, fuck yeah. And she's been hooked ever since. She doesn't miss a game. So yeah, it's pretty big win for me. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. I'm sure that there's plenty of people who listen to this who have suffering partners when it comes to obviously our passion and our obsession for Milan. Yeah. Yeah, I think all those hours sat on the sofa watching games, saying swear words that I've completely made up in my head and stuff like that. It all becomes worth it when you get a win like that. But the nerves towards the end of that game, I actually watched that one with my dad, and I think I've managed to hook him a little bit as well. But there was a lot of relief when the full time whistle went for that 3-2 win.
I remember after Leao's second goal to go 3-1 up, Badera was there, and we were just like screaming, talking so much shit to the TV, like, it's over, this is done, wrap it up, blah blah blah. And then they scored the second one. We're like, hey, let's just take it easy, boys. Let's calm down. We got this.
Foot off the gas here, boys. Yeah. That I mean, look, that's the beauty of the sport. I mean, I remember speaking to some Inter fans that I know after the game and sort of saying, like the result's the result, but ultimately it's good for the product of Serie A for that game to be that good and to have two teams that are the two biggest clubs along with Juve, but they're not exactly in a healthy position at the moment. But to have them as relevant again and producing such entertaining games, it can only be good. The best win, I was torn between picking the most entertaining game. So that 3-2 derby win was also right up there, as well as the 2-1 comeback win. And I was torn between that and picking the most dominant win. So like our best team performance all round. So I thought about picking the 3-0 against Sassuolo because we absolutely blitzed them to emphatically win the Scudetto, and that was the ultimate statement after a long 38-game season to win it in that way. But I've gone for the 4-0 win against RB Salzburg.
Oh, okay. Ooh, good pick.
I mean, obviously we know what the situation was. We needed to draw or win that final Champions League group stage game in order to go through. We'd been given a bit of a tough examination by Salzburg in the first group stage game. We'd lost twice against Chelsea, obviously. There was a bit of nerves coming into this, thinking, how do we play it? Do we sit back and wait for the counter? Do we take the initiative? Purely spent his pre-match interviews talking about how we were going to take the game to them, and we absolutely wiped the floor with them 4-0. And this is a team that had reached the knockout stages last season, had drawn with Bayern Munich in the knockout stages, and then lost away. But that was just a big win that I think showed how far we've come across multiple fronts. And obviously what it secured as well is like an extra 10-15 million euros. Yeah. So and the chance to play Spurs in February, March, which will be another big step for the club. So I just think symbolically that was a massive win and a performance that was actually probably deserving of like a 6 or 7-0 win in the end.
In fact, I remember funny you mentioned Spurs on that, because my buddy Dan, who's a big Spurs supporter, texted me at full time with like a gif of, like, I don't remember who it was, but someone clapping, like, oh, whoa, like, good job. And I remember saying, I was like, that wasn't even a fair scoreline to us. Like it should have been 6, 7, 8-0. Like we dominated them. Yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah. Now we've got the best, let me just double check, best player. Yeah, the best player of 2022. Yeah. We agree on this, I think.
Yeah, it's got to be Leao, right?
Yeah. Serie A MVP from last season. Double figures in goals and assists across all competitions, and he's carried it on this season. He's still... It's him and Giroud who are our two match-winning players. But I would say more so Leao, because he's capable of creating it on his own, whereas Giroud probably still needs the service to be decisive. Leao is the man who creates that service, but also can score goals at any time himself. Yes, there's still room for growth with him. He's 23 years old. Yes, there's the question marks surrounding his renewal and stuff, but he is still he's still that one talent that we have that is called potentially world class for a reason. Everyone's noticed him now, and he may well get some more minutes at the World Cup with Portugal, because they're playing Switzerland later on today. And it would be good for him to keep announcing himself on the big stage after he scored a goal after, less than 3 minutes in his first
I think it was like his first touch of the game, yeah.
Hasn't really featured too much apart from that. I think he got about 25 minutes off the bench in the final group game, but I think he still has to win over Santos, Portugal's head coach.
Well, and that's probably going to go against him, because I remember watching him in that last game when he came on, and he came on when the game was already done. There was no need to exert yourself, risk injury or anything like that. But he was doing exactly what his criticism was with us when he first started, was he looked lazy, and he was just kind of standing there, not really making runs or anything. But like I said, the game was over. It's a meaningless World Cup game. They'd already qualified. Why risk anything before the knockout round? So I get why he was brought on as a body, because you obviously want fresh legs. You don't want anyone getting hurt, but there's no reason to try to make some crazy spectacle out of it when you don't need to. So that might upset Santos. Maybe that was Santos's instruction. I guess we'll find out if he plays today and how he looks. But yeah, I didn't see much in that game from him. So
yeah, fair. I think there are some elements of truth to what he said as well. Like, he is given the freedom, and at Milan he's given sort of the freedom to choose his moments, shall we say. Whereas we know in international football, when the stakes are so high, you need to be switched on, and you need to contribute in both facets of the game at all times. Otherwise, it can cost you your World Cup dream. And obviously at Milan, he has the chemistry with Teo down the left side, and like Teo and Mbappe don't necessarily have the same chemistry with France as Teo and Leao do at club level. I see Mbappe sort of stood doing these step overs and stuff like 5 yards away from the fullback, and Teo's just stood there waiting to be put through, to do an overlapping run, and it just doesn't happen because Mbappe is the guy, So it is interesting to see these different dynamics work at international level. Although I do think Teo did actually set up Mbappe for one goal.
He did, and Teo had 2 assists to Giroud as well, didn't he? Isn't he on like 3 assists right now?
He had one for Rabiot.
That's what it was. It was Rabiot and then Giroud. And the Teo to Giroud connection is obviously well known. That's always a good thing. But you're right. Mbappe's the guy there. He's a bit selfish. If you notice someone on France scores, Mbappe does not pass the ball until he gets a goal too. Once he gets his goal, then it's free-flowing football, because he's passing everyone, making incredible passes, and there's more goals. But yeah, if he's not the star man, you will not see a good France. That's just how they're operating.
I guess other honourable mentions for best player would be Giroud for the important goals that he scored both last season and into this season. I would have said Teo if he hadn't missed some games, Tonali as well scored some important goals. And Benacer has been much improved this part of the season. Obviously, Tomori and Kalulu were exceptional in the Scudetto running, but it'd be fair to say defence has not necessarily been our strength so far this season, so that maybe just bumps them to the level below.
Right. That was my thought too. I wanted to give Mike an honorable mention, but he really hasn't featured this half of the year. So,
yeah.
It's hard to
Tatar
throw him in
instead. We're on best moment now.
Yeah, that's obvious as well. Lifting the Scudetto. I mean, it does not get better than that. That is the moment. Maybe a Champions League, but Scudetto after the drought that we had, taking the second star away from Inter right then and there at the grasp, at the death. That was it. Seeing Zlatan walk out with that cigar from the tunnel at the Maipai, it doesn't get better than that. That is it. That is iconic. That will be burned in my memory, your memory, and everyone's memory for the rest of our lives. And if it isn't, well, then I don't know what to tell you. It should be.
Yeah. It is that. Yeah, and I think you can almost split it into two as well, because there was celebrations after the game that happened on that day. Obviously, the stadium was 3/4 our fans, and the fans all came onto the pitch to celebrate with the players. And yeah, there was the podium, the lifting of the trophy, the players coming out dancing, Zlatan with a cigar, Pierre Kalulu with the club that was actually just a massive bottle of champagne. There were so many amazing moments from that day itself. But I think the moment when it really properly hit me and the moment that I felt the most like raw emotion was during the actual trophy parade itself in the city, when there was literally hundreds of thousands of people who lined the streets and just the party going on in the Duomo, the Piazza Duomo until like the early hours of the morning, the flares lighting up the players as they go past on the bus, and the chanting from the bus, and just everything about that was like the culmination of 11 long years. It was an outpouring of not just happiness, but also like get all the frustration and the bad memories out. And that was incredible.
Yeah, there wasn't a single bad day all summer, and it was because of that. Even when the market wasn't as well as we thought, when other teams are doing bigger things, like when we, it's
like, well, we've already got the Scudetto winning squad, so anything from here is a bonus.
Exactly.
And, I mean, one more thing, like there was the moment in the 3-0 win over Sassuolo where Kessie scored the goal to put us 3-0 up. And then he went over to the away end and did the salute in front of the fans. And we knew at that point that he was almost certainly going to leave. Yeah. I just thought that was quite a fitting sign-off. There is an amazing picture of him saluting in front of the fans. And I think that's the thing that secured that he didn't go with any, not the same level of toxicity as Donnarumma and Çalhanoğlu. And
Donnarumma's making more quotes today. Did you see that?
This guy's a dick.
Yeah, he said he'd be super happy if Napoli won the Scudetto. Like, this fucking
guy.
I mean,
he obviously was born in Campania, not far from Naples. So I think what he was saying is there's been like some speculation that because he was at Milan, he doesn't like Napoli or he doesn't root for Napoli. But I think he was just saying that like that's his home city club. So, but it's just a daft thing to say. Plenty of good memories though. There are no doubt others that people will pick out in the comments, and please do share your best moment of the 2022 year. I was going to go most improved next, but what we'll do is do worst moment and then end with a positive. So,
all right, I like that. So for me, it was recently, and it might seem insignificant, but I don't think it was. It was losing to Torino on October 30th. Mainly because I was on vacation and I forced my girlfriend to book a flight home so that we could be back in time to watch the game early morning. And we did. And then we lost to Torino 2-1. And we shouldn't have. We looked absolutely wank. And to top it off, Inter, Juve, Napoli, Atalanta, and Roma all won. And that was just the gap we had on the teams below us vanished. The proximity we had to the top grew. It just... That was a really bad one, and I think we're still feeling the results of that. And come match day or come week 38, whatever, if we're second place and Napoli win by 3 points, well, we could look to this moment.
Yeah, that is very true. That was the worst performance of 2022. I think it would be fair to say that was incredibly disjointed. The moment I picked was actually a game that we should have won, but it was robbed from us, and that was the Spezia game. That obviously
was that in 22? I thought that was 21 for some reason.
It was early in 2022. In fact, let me find the exact date. But I remember thinking at that moment, after that had gone against us, we're not going to go on and win the league title. There was a gap as it was, and we couldn't afford to drop points. But just the manner that happened, obviously, Macias curling that goal in. It was on 17th of January, so it's right at the start of the year. But he curled that goal into the top corner. The ref's already blown for a foul, and then they go up the other end and score to make it 2-1. And I want to say that was a Friday or a Saturday night, and we had plans for after the game, and it just completely ruined my evening. It was not good. It was part anger, and as I say, just part like feeling a bit downtrodden that was a massive dent in our push for the title. And then thankfully we went on a ridiculous run to that was our last loss of the season. So, we went on a big run after that and managed to hoist the trophy. So all's well that ends well, I suppose. And now we're on to the most improved player.
I want you to go first because I'm going to catch heat for mine.
Oh, I haven't prepared an answer for this. That's a bad one. I'm I'm going to have to go with Tonali. And I think that part of that is a little bit from just before 2022, to be fair. Obviously, he had his first season with us in 2020-21 on loan from Brescia, and he struggled. He didn't adapt as quickly as perhaps we'd hoped, but obviously with it was the transition to a new club, his boyhood club, which has added pressure. The fact we've beaten Inter to his signature, we're fighting for the biggest prizes, whereas Brescia had just been relegated. There were all kinds of factors that fed into it. He came back in the start of last season, and he looked much better in the first half of the season. But then his contributions in 2022 have been absolutely massive. You know, he scored the brace away against Verona when we went 1-0 down, and then ended up coming back to win 3-1. He scored the last-minute winner against Lazio, which was massive. He scored the winner against Verona this time as well. So, yeah, I'll go with him because, like, there was a time when we'd play Kessie and Benacer to try and take the pressure off him, and now he's arguably among the first names in the team sheet.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good shout. Probably better than mine, and I'm sure the comment section will let us know.
Dest.
Yes.
Is it really?
It's Dest.
Yeah.
The guy came in to roaring disapproval. Nobody wanted him, myself included. I refused to even acknowledge he was an American. I said he was Dutch.
I bet he wishes he was now.
Right. Yeah, he didn't do well. You know, he against Chelsea, when you saw it in person, he received a pass and thought he was taking a free kick and just grabbed the ball. I mean, there's so many things at the beginning of his tenure that just, what the hell, man? And slowly but surely started to improve a little bit better. Still has a lot of holes in his game. Don't get me wrong. Like, there is so much room for improvement with him still. But if you don't think he had one of the best World Cups of anyone, at least in our group stage, then you're just a hater. The guy was incredible for the U.S. It showed when he signed. We knew what was his priority, being the World Cup. He even said it, that this is going to give me game time for the national team, and we all were mad about at that, myself included. But he showed what he can do, and he wasn't as bad defensively as we've been saying. He was even better offensively than we've been saying, which is absolute strong suit. And if he could carry that form into the rest of the season, I think we have a real play on our hands. And I don't think the 20 mil option is going to get taken up, but I guarantee we won't just send him back to Barca. We might try and get a discount like we always do. And honestly, if Calabria comes back, if Florenzi come back, I could see Dest starting at right wing, and I think he would do well.
There's all kinds of interesting scenarios with Dest. I mean, I think we all thought he was a write-off after his first 3 appearances or whatever. Yeah. He looked low on confidence, low on match fitness. But you've got to remember, he did arrive to a lot of skepticism. There's no doubt Barcelona have been looking to shift him all summer and hadn't really managed to do so. But he only arrived as emergency cover. We actually had no plans to sign a right back, but Florenzi got a serious injury and we had to move on deadline day. So he came to a club he wasn't even expecting to join, but we got the deal done. 20 mil option to buy. Everyone's like, that's ridiculous. That's way too high. What are we doing here? Gave away that penalty in the Napoli game, and there was some bad performance against Chelsea as well. And he struggled without a doubt. And yet, here I am thinking that there could be more positives than negatives to having him in our squad. I think he could potentially do a job at right back if we've got Kalulu and Tomori together, because you can cover a bit more for a defensively weak fullback. You can make that argument with Calabria, like when he's been beaten before, at least we've got 2 athletic centre backs to cover. If we wanted to change to play in a system with wing backs, he'd probably be a perfect right wing back. You know, he covers the entire flank and he makes those insertion runs, kind of like what Dumfries was doing to you in the last 16 game. And yeah, he can play as a right winger as well. And I think he's younger and he's more reliable from a physical point of view than Florenzi, unfortunately. Florenzi's had 2 surgeries and a serious injury since he joined us. And he's only been with us for 18 months.
He's also older, though. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I just think that if there is a scenario where, you know, come next summer, we can offload Florenzi if he's only played a handful of games and he just isn't reliable anymore. Like, his body might not hold up. We don't know yet. Then then Dest might not be the worst replacement in the world, as a backup, and even someone who can challenge for a starting spot. But yeah, I don't think that's a terrible shout.
Well, good. I'm glad. Someone's
going to hate.
will. Yeah.
Someone's definitely going to hate on
Stefano.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, 2022. Let us know your highlights of the year, the best goal, best assist, best moment, all that kind of stuff, and let's hope for more positive ones in 2023. I'm hoping that Lorenzo is going to do a quiz for us at some point before we return to competitive action. So I'll try to get as many of us on for that as possible, because that would be a good way to finally see out the year.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Let's do some questions then.
Real quick, one talking point. Super quick, but just Giroud is now the lone top goal scorer for the France national team. So a round of applause to him. We're all really, really thrilled. And if you didn't see my tweet, it was well received by some and really upset a lot of people from Arsenal. So go check that out. It's churning at about 4,000 likes right now. So
it is the single best bit of bait that I've ever seen.
And that's a funny thing too, because it was bait. I don't think he is anywhere near one of the greatest strikers of all time. I do think he will be remembered much more fondly than he probably should be, but
yeah, might he actually be quite overrated?
yeah, exactly. Still a fantastic striker, and I've actually been a big fan of him even when I started watching the sport as a Spurs fan, and he was at Arsenal, and I liked him, so always been a big Ollie G fan, and happy
capable of the extraordinary. Has always been the man for the big occasion, cold-blooded, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think he'll be talked about as a generational player.
No.
Like some people are suggesting that he deserves to be talked about, But I'll certainly tell my kids and grandkids about some goals from Ollie G. And congratulations to him on his record as well. That's nothing to be sniffed at. Like 52 goals is a lot.
It's huge. And Mbappe is going to break that record sooner than later. So I'm glad he had the opportunity to do it. Yeah, because if Mbappe wanted to, he could just not pass him the ball. Yeah. He's selfish enough to be that guy. So it was pretty cool to see it happen.
Yes, it was. Questions then.
Yep.
We'll just have a look through these. I'm doing a bit of a dry read through here. I've not seen before. Michael Gambino. Oh, I'll go for this one because I know you hate Canada. Michael Gambino. Thoughts on Canada's Buchanan for the right wing role?
I don't really know him too much, So
he's at. I know he's at Club Bruges. Because I remember speaking about it and saying, do we really want to go and splash on another forward from Club Bruges? He is currently on.
To him?
No, no, we're not. He scored 1 goal in 14 appearances last season, and he scored 1 goal in 8 appearances so far this season. He's 23.
I'm going to say no then.
I'm going to say no as well. Like, I think if we sign a right winger who's impressing at the World Cup, because I do think he looked all right in the World Cup. He had a really good assist for Alphonse Davies. Then it's probably got to be Ziyech still, hasn't it? Like, because at least we know he's a player who's capable of putting up numbers.
Yeah.
Like right now, straight away. He's in his prime
exactly.
right now.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Buchanan could come good. I don't know. But like you said, he's 23. He's playing in Bruges, which is more of a league that's going to be dominated by the younger guys. And since he's not even getting, a start every game, but judging by those numbers, I don't know. He's obviously not a starting option for them. So I don't think he'd be a good starting option for us, which is something. Look, if we had a great world-class right winger right now, I'd say, yeah, sure, bring him in and let him develop under someone to start. Yeah. But we have 3 right wingers. 2 of them are not good enough. Those same 2 are both injured. And whoever we're starting right now, I can't even think off the top of my head, is also
technically Macias is back fit, but yeah,
that's true. And Salmakers will be back as well. But for the last 18 games or so, it's been a circus.
We've played Brahim there. We've played Rebic out there. I cannot believe we still haven't fixed that problem. I did a devil's advocate last week on some of the issues in the squad that weren't addressed during the summer.
It's funny because we went from a team that only had one attacking threat, which was a right wing in Suso, to saying, wow, this guy's got one trick we can't create because everyone knows what he's going to do, to now this is our only weak spot. Like, we got rid of the guy who was the only one who did well there. And I don't think he'd be great for us now.
No.
Well, I guess he might. He does have more options, but still, we needed to get rid of him when we did, but we haven't replaced him. We thought Castillejo was that guy. Obviously wasn't. And neither are the people we have now. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I still dispute the decision to sign Junior Messias on a permanent transfer. I just still don't really think that was going to raise the quality of that department, and that's what we really needed. But no doubt that'll be a contentious thing in itself, and we can get something done in the winter to address that. Rohit asks, given the financial turmoil faced by Juve and Inter, I think Elliott and Gazidis' penny pinching approach is vindicated. How long do you think we can keep doing this loan plus option and buying young players?
Well, I think we could do it as long as we want. The issue with Juventus doing it is they were lying. They were doing different things, whereas we're doing it because that is our most financially sound option, where we can't afford to pay for these players up front. We do need the year loan. We need the 2-year loan so that we could divide the fee, whereas Juve was doing it with astronomical numbers, with extremely low numbers, just all kinds of weird things, back office deals with it, and you could argue the morality behind having a good relationship with another club and getting a discount behind that. I personally don't have any issue with that. Those leaked calls with Paratici saying, like, you have a relationship with me. Why are you going to give me the same deal you're offering to the Arsenal guys who you've never met? I don't have any issue with that. I think that's a good point. Connections are valuable.
And that definitely happens widespread. 100%.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee we've done it. Why do we keep buying from the same teams? It's just how that works. So I don't have any issue with that. And I think we could do it as long as we want. Now, if you're saying when do we have to move to like a permanent transfer to sign a star, I'd say right now. I'd say we tried to do it with CDK. And what we did was the permanent immediate transfer at a high fee for a young player. So
and it maybe hasn't worked.
Yeah, we took the worst portion of each part, the risk on a young player and the high spending, and combined it and got the worst results.
Yeah.
So,
and it could still come good. Obviously, don't get me wrong. Like the Leao cost over 20 mil, and Tonali we had to invest in, and Benacer we had to pay 6.
But the difference is the come good was 2 years after, because you got that loan. Whereas this was you spend big because you want it now. So I think that's what we need to start doing is. Especially with this gap we got to make up. Is it 9 points? Is it 11 points? I haven't looked at the table in a while. I can't remember. But
8.
Napoli have a good lead, 8 points. Napoli have a good lead. That's 3 games. We need to sign someone who's ready-made who could come in and make a difference immediately.
Yeah. I think to answer the question, you can almost split it into two. I mean, Juventus and Inter are in a financial hellhole, to be honest. The losses that Inter made and the debt that they have racked up and the fact that they're trying to get a buyer but just can't. And then Juve, who have quite literally done things that have broken the rules, as it appears at the moment. So, never do that. It's not about our approach being vindicated by them doing things so badly. It's more so we operated within our means and the only way that we could to secure the future financial health of the club. And have to appreciate Elliott and Gazidis and obviously Maldini and Massara and Moncada and the guys who recruited these players that have formed a talented young core. I think I've had my say on the summer window. I think that it was not a good transfer window for a team that have just won the league title. There were gaps to be addressed and there seemed to be money available for players. And then we decided to spend virtually the entire budget on a player who so far has not yet come good, but I hope will in time. But yeah, the answer is now, as you say. Now is the time to up the stakes, and that comes to salaries as well.
And there's some good players that might be cut price right now from Juve. Vlahovic, I've only been saying it for 6 months.
There was actually a report about that today, but it wasn't from a reputable source, unfortunately.
Yeah, they just been listening to the podcast and said, "Oh, that's
they've written
some
ideas
ideas
on you." But salaries as well is the other thing. Like you got to pay to keep the top players,
and that was something that Juve did. That sorry to cut you off again, but was illegal. That I don't necessarily have an issue with. They had written that they were going to defer 6 months worth of payments or that the players were giving it up, but they still paid them 4. And I'm a big advocate for paying your players but you can't do it the way they did. I think
yeah.
Just say you're gonna hold off 2 months, and then you can
Yeah.
say, like, yeah, we took the financial slap on the wrist because we want our players to still get the money that we agreed to pay them, that they deserve and they earn, and I think that's great. But you can't say we're not paying them for 6 months and then under the table paying for 4 months and then not report that on your books. And when your reported debts are 200 and I can't remember 64 million reported, and then it comes out that it actually was 470 and you just didn't report the rest of it, then yeah, you deserve to go to hell. So
Yep.
we don't like Juve.
I hope it's a very big book that gets thrown at them.
Yeah.
Karabo Mafa, I hope I've pronounced that right, asks, could Yassine Adli save his AC Milan career during the December friendlies? That is a bold one. That is a bold question, because I think there's an implication that his career's on the line with that.
I think he's going to stick around. You don't invest 10 million in a player, at least at Milan, to ship him off unless you're Paqueta or Piontek. But I don't think his friendly performance is going to do anything. He was the best player in preseason and didn't get a start for 12 weeks. Didn't get game time for 10 of those weeks. Like whatever Pioli's seen in training is simply not enough to justify it. So regardless of friendly performances, it's just simply not enough. I think he needs to do more in practice, and maybe he still goes on loan in January. That's probably what I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that makes a lot of sense. What good performances in the friendlies might do is increase his market and allow us to handpick the club that he goes to. I mean, there's rumours that Torino are interested, Sampdoria, Cremonese. I mean, you look at that, I'm thinking send him to Torino. Like they've done a good job with loan players in the past. Sampdoria and Cremonese, meanwhile, are probably going to be battling relegation. So like maybe we can pick the club that he goes to a little bit better. There are other players that it applies to as well, like Marko Lazetic is sort of stuck between the first team and the Primavera, and like if he does well in a couple of the friendlies, because obviously we won't have Giroud and Ibra's injured, and then maybe he gets a good loan move out of it as well.
You could say in a roundabout way that good performances in these friendlies leads to a better club for him to go on loan to, which could better develop him, which could return him better and make him a better player. So yes, maybe it can. But I don't think it's going to be like, oh, he did great, let's keep him, let's start him, and he kills it. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah. Manny asked, what World Cup players have stood out so far that Milan should inquire about in January? This is
the obvious one is Gakpo, and that's not happening. So.
Yeah, sadly, we've been priced out of that one.
Yeah.
That
was the immediate name that came to mind. Let me just take a quick look here, because I do think there were a few other good players that I was.
I mean, the one that I've been impressed with, and it's I maintain, and people have hit back at this, but I maintain that the one bit of business that I would look to do in the January transfer window is to bring in a quality third midfielder, because we simply need someone to be able to alternate with Benacer and Tonali, because we know how important the double pivot is, and he's actually playing right now. Sofian Amrabat has been really, really good for Morocco. We've been linked with him before. He knows the league well, having played for Verona and Fiorentina. He's a traditional number 6 who would allow Benacer and Tonali to shine at what they're actually good at. And I think he'd be available on a relatively cheap deal. And he's also 26, so he's in his prime years. So I'd be having an inquiry over him. Some of the players that we've been linked with have actually been pretty good as well. Jakub Kiwior had a good tournament for Poland.
Good call.
Getting them into the knockouts, having conceded, I think, only 1 goal in the group stage. Maybe no. Sorry, they conceded 2 or 3 against Argentina, but they kept 2 clean sheets to start the group stage, and that's what got them through, basically.
Sarr from Watford also has done pretty well. I don't think that's within our budget, but that would be a player who'd slot in at a young age to a position we need, so that's a possibility.
And
but
obviously,
I just looked at like the top 3 for each category and stats for the World Cup, and I mean it's all the usual suspects. It's the Mbappes, the Messis, the Neymars, it's all the top players in each position are being the top players, which should come as no surprise to anyone.
Yeah. That's the thing as well about the World Cup, is that it's such a different context to club football. You're talking there about Ismaila Sarr, who's been very, very good for Senegal, and I feel like people know him and what he can bring to the table. But he is ultimately playing at Watford, and there's a reason nobody took a chance on him. A Premier League club didn't take a chance on him, and they went for João Pedro and Dennis, a guy called Dennis, who ended up at Nottingham Forest. He was the one who ended up going for decent money. But yeah, it has been interesting. I think there's been some talents that have looked pretty good. I wanted to see more of Jeremy Doku for Belgium because he was linked with us because we met his agency, and I think he's barely played. So put that one on the back burner for now. Right, we'll do a final one then. This is from Tony Gallagher. After the contrasting World Cup experiences for Giroud, Dest, and CDK, what comes next for each of them?
Ooh, I like that question. Well, Giroud's going to come back and continue as is. He's the starting striker, and we'll see how Zlatan returns to fitness and how often they rotate. But I don't think anything's changed with Giroud. I don't think we're getting a striker, unfortunately. I would love to go for Vlahovic, but
he'll renew. I suppose that's one thing to mention as well. It sounds like
that's almost done.
His contract. Yeah. That was one of my hot takes. I don't know if you listened back to last week, but I basically said that Giroud's 2022 might actually have some kind of a detrimental effect. Obviously, the goals are great for us, and it's fantastic that he's full of confidence. But he's 36, and the longer we lean on him as our starting striker, the more reliant we become. Like the Zlatan dependency, it's going to be harder to wean ourselves off, and we need to make that investment in a new striker sooner rather than later.
And we've kind of been saying that since we signed him. The only difference to that is he's performed better than we all thought. If he sticks around and becomes the number 2 to a real young star striker, then great. As for the others, Dest, obviously he was my most improved in the review, so I would like to see him stick around. I don't think 20 mil is what we're going to go for. If we could get him for 10, I'd be really happy with it. If we get him for 15, I'd be okay with it. I'd like to see him more upfield, more attacking, more forward-minded. Who's the other player I mentioned? CDK.
CDK,
yeah, he's still an enigma. I wouldn't send him on loan. I think Steph said in the last episode that send him on loan would kill his career, and I completely agree with that. I think he needs to stay and be given the chance, and these friendlies might be the perfect opportunity for him to get that fresh start because he didn't get any chances with Belgium. That's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He played 15 minutes in total. Now, him not convincing Roberto Martinez is another thing. He's probably going to go for the more established names, and Belgium crashed out in the groups, which implies that he was surrounded by a team that was struggling as well.
Yeah.
And I did tweet to say, I didn't understand the hype about Belgium going into the tournament either. They've got a really old defence. The midfield is literally just De Bruyne and then a load of forwards that seem to hate the rest of the team. So I'm not surprised that it, and Lukaku's out of form. Hazard's not been in form for 6 years or something. It does add up eventually, and you will lose games. But yeah, Dest, I'd like to see us try and negotiate on that front. We'll see how he does when he comes back, obviously. The salary's the thing as well, because he's on 3.5 million net, which would be, over 5 million gross salary for us to pay out. He'd be on more than Calabria, just as an example.
That would have to get cut. That would have to get cut. And the only way that's going to happen is if he really comes good form with us and has a starting spot and he realizes this is where I need to be for my career's development. Because he's not getting time at Barca. He never was, he's just not going to. So he's got to have to take that cut.
I'm a little bit annoyed as well about the friendlies. We've scheduled the friendlies for the 13th and the 17th. I know that's while we're in Dubai, and it probably works for the other teams as well. But we're going to be without most of the squad who have been at the World Cup, and maybe even a couple of players who have represented the under whatever categories of their national teams, because there's been Euros qualifiers. So we're going to go into that Arsenal game first without some key performers. But I was going to say, apart from that, you absolutely have to start CDK in all the friendlies that you can, because if there's ever a time to
he's try not coming get back something to the 15th.
The 15th, he's meant to be coming back on the 15th, so he'll miss that first friendly, and he'll probably only play a part of the game against Liverpool on the 17th. So I'm instantly thinking there's a useful opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much gone. But start him. I don't know, in the PSV game, I guess, and just hope something clicks. But the comments surrounding him from Maldini in recent days have been positive. He's got the full backing, and I don't think it's blind faith. I think there must be something seen there in training as well, obviously. But he just needs a goal, man. I want to see how he does after a goal. He might score a goal and do nothing for the next 10 games, but I just want to see what a goal does, you know. It might completely transform his confidence levels and stuff. Yeah, that's it. Thank you to everyone who made it this far and is persevering listening while there's not actually any concrete Milan games and developments to talk about. We're trying to keep things fresh until we get back in competitive action, or at least until we have those friendlies to talk about. But I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, thank you for joining.
Yep, Turbo45 right there. So give me a shout.
Yeah, and like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give us a rating on your favorite podcast platform. That would really help us out. Yeah, we will catch you in a week's time. Thank you for listening.
Eccolo Ante in area di rigore, Ante, vibra, gol! Vediamo se è buono, ce lo dà buono,